I recently put out a video on the first time that I did oil pump gears in my 2021 Mach 1. Here's a thumbnail for that video. If you haven't seen it, definitely go check it out. It's a very good kind of start to install of the oil pump gears on a Gen 3 Coyote. But I'm making this video because I realized that even though I had the instructions and I did it myself and I made a video, there were a few things that I think would be helpful for somebody who's trying to tackle this on their own at home, just to know beforehand going in. A few specialty tools, a few little tips and tricks, and just a general discussion a little bit on the timing aspect, because I know that's what a lot of people worry about. I'm here to tell you it's not that bad, but I do want to discuss something that happened to me that I did not find anywhere online. And because I had to do it and it did work, and I've got no check engine lights, and it starts and it runs and it makes a good oil pressure, I want to share those with you. So I've got a plethora of tools down here. Now, some of these you're going to look at and say, I've got that, that's basic, and I'll explain why I'm showing it. Some of the other ones you may not have, and you may need to rent or purchase before you go ahead and try to tackle this job. Now, I know a lot of you most likely have a torque wrench. Torque wrenches come in different sizes. This is an inch-pound torque wrench. So this is for the smaller stuff. And I'm here to tell you, if you're about to do this job, you're only going to use your larger foot-pound torque wrench, honestly, on a very small number of things. You'll find again and again that a lot of things get torqued to 89 inch-pounds. And it's really helpful to have an inch-pound torque wrench. If you don't have one already, go ahead and get one. They're typically a 1/4 inch drive. And you can still use, if you got your adapter, you know, your regular 3/8 drive sockets, but I would highly, highly, highly recommend, it's really a must if you're gonna do this, get yourself an inch-pound torque wrench. Now I wanna talk about ratchets for a second too. So obviously most of you guys probably have a 3/8 drive ratchet like this one. One of the things I think is really smart though is if you've got 1/4 inch drive ratchets, sometimes it's nice to be able to put an extension in a smaller socket, because let me show you guys for a second. A lot of times just the flat out size, you know what I mean? Like the diameter of the sockets is smaller with a 1/4 inch drive than it is with, 3/8 drive. So sometimes you need that little bit of space on some of these tight spots. I would highly recommend having a set of metric 1/4 inch drive sockets. Another thing is extensions. So obviously, you guys are gonna have extensions, but your standard extension, right? It's a 3/8 drive, for example. This one has no wiggle room. When this clicks together, it's just a straight line. However, they make extensions which actually have this kind of like tapered to the top. And what that allows you to do is get some bend, right? So when you start coupling these together, you can actually get a funky angle to get yourself onto some different bolts and nuts that you couldn't reach with just a straight socket. Sometimes you want to use, a universal joint, but it just adds too much length. So getting these, you get these from Harbor Freight. Like I said, they've got this end here, and they are really, really, really good for trying to get those oil pan bolts when you're doing a Gen 3 Coyote, specifically those 4 in the front that attach to the bottom of the timing cover. Okay, now we're gonna get into the more specific tools. I covered this in the video, but this is the style of puller that you will need for these newer Coyotes. So this is from OEM Tools, and the part number there is kind of hard to see, but there's a 2 in there, 25264, and this is the style that you'll need. You're also gonna need a longer bolt. So when you go to put your harmonic balancer back on, it is an interference fit on the crank snout. So I would highly recommend getting yourself a longer bolt. This is one you can throw away. You're gonna either reuse or get a new crank bolt, but I would highly recommend getting a bolt like this. And also grab yourself some anti-seize. Use anti-seize when you're using this or that. You definitely don't want to get something to gall or get caught up on the threads of the crank and then you're stuck. Definitely want to get yourself a magnet, because you're going to drop some stuff, and when you do, a extendable magnet is super useful for picking all those parts out. Fuel fittings. So to disconnect some of the various styles of fuel lines, you just go ahead and get yourself one of these. I kind of forget what the different sizes are, but you're gonna need to use at least 1 or 2 of these for the fuel lines, and you're gonna need to use, I think, this one, either this one or this one, for one of the coolant lines, just because of the way it's set up. So the way this works is you take this off like so, get it off of here, and you slide it over the line And how you do that is it's actually got a slot in it. So you slide it over the line, push it in, and that allows you to disconnect your quick connect fuel lines. Without that, you're in trouble. It's not gonna work. Some other things, you're gonna need a crow foot or a crow's foot, whatever you wanna call it. This is a 17 millimeter. This is specific for the high pressure fuel pump, which is found on the passenger side valve cover beneath this piece right here. When you start taking that apart, there is a flare fitting. Now you can undo it and tighten it with a wrench, but if you want to get the torque spec correct, you are going to need one of these crow's feet, and then you can hook that up to your torque wrench and then do a little bit of math and get your adjusted torque value by using this. So very useful if you really want to follow the instructions to a T. You are going to need some RTV, some sealant. There's a handful of spots when you install the valve covers and the front cover that you will need RTV. Just a few other little odds and ends. There's a few spots, I believe, where you're gonna need Torx. Definitely you're gonna need Torx, so get yourself a set for when you're doing the oil pump to disconnect the oil pump halves. It is, I forget if it's a T20 or what size it is, but anyways, you're gonna need a male Torx. And then I don't think you need a female Torx, but I believe there was one step where I wasn't sure and I had to pull some studs out and they were the other style of Torx. So this isn't fully necessary, but it's nice to have on hand. Okay, so one of the things that a lot of people get kind of messed up on is the timing procedure. And really, if you follow the instructions, the timing procedure is not that difficult. But I do want to talk about something that happened to me when I was doing it. And we'll actually go back to a video that you didn't see in the first video that I put out that talks about what happens if your alignment is a little bit off when you go back to install the chains. So take a look at this video and hopefully it helps. All right, see where that arrow is pointing? On the left hand or driver's side sprocket. There's your mark. And then if we come down here and break my wrist, see that top mark right there? That's the mark you want. So you align the timing chains with that mark on both sides. Okay, this is actually a little bit scary. So when you rotate this to 5 o'clock in the first step, as you start to move it, it gets to a point and just kind of like free spins. It goes, and it just kind of stops at like 5 o'clock, right? And that's what the instructions say. Now, I always felt like it went a little bit past 5 o'clock, right? So if you look down here, you can see where I put a paint marker. That was where I removed when I removed the crank sprocket, I marked the crankshaft. Now, when I went to put the timing chains back on, you can see that that one's lined up on the mark, and also that one's lined up on the mark, but they were 1 tooth off. So I actually spoke with the dyno shop, the tuner, nice guy, and he recommended, hey, just go ahead and just bump the crankshaft a little bit to get it so your marks line up. Now, I did that. Obviously, that's a little bit freaky, right? Okay, you want to confirm down there that your mark on your timing chain aligns with the mark on the crank sprocket. While we are on the topic of alignment, now this is the stock crank sprocket that comes out of the car. So it has the keyway here, and then it has the marked link, okay? So when you're lining everything back up with your chains, the only time you use the keyway is really when you're turning the engine over. Other than that, when they talk about like lining up the colored link, like if you have a boundary link, it's not gonna have an arrow, it's just gonna be a colored link. And the color is only gonna be shown on the front link, but it applies to both of these. So when they say to line up, you know, the other side of the chain, it's this back one, they're talking about the same thing. Go ahead, and there have been instances though where you get a crank sprocket gear sent to you and they didn't label it right. So when you pull yours off, set it on top of or next to the one that you purchased and count the teeth and make sure that the timing mark that they show right here is the same distance away, because I've heard stories where people have followed the instructions, but the gear was marked wrong. They put the car back together, and then get a check engine light and you got to tear it all back apart. Don't let that happen to you. For you Gen 3 Coyote guys, so anybody with a 2018 or newer Mustang Mach 1 or probably GT350, as you know, you have to drop the oil pan. But I'm here to say that you don't have to actually drop it all the way. And I'm gonna show you a really basic tool and how to use it. All it is this 10 millimeter ratcheting wrench. I'm gonna show you what I did. It actually prevents you from having to drop the pan all the way down. You can still leave one bolt in, and I'll show you the little trick I have here. And it's tough. I've got big hands, but I was able to do this, and I'll show you how. So this is a pretty standard 10 millimeter ratcheting wrench. Now, one thing about these is you can only slide this style over the head of the bolt one way, meaning I could put a bolt in this way, I can't put a bolt head in that way. And if you look here, it's because there's a lip on the inside of this. What this allows you to do is actually use the wrench to keep the bolt from falling out. And you can let go of the wrench and the bolt still won't fall out. When you're up underneath the car and you get to this step, trust me, you'll know exactly what bolt I'm talking about. It is on the passenger side. It's one of the oil pan bolts and it's above the steering rack. And it's one of those things where if that bolt were to come all the way out, I'm not saying you can't get it back up in there, but it's gonna be very difficult because you're trying to contort your hand in weird ways. It's gonna be really tough. But there is a wire loom that runs forward to back, right on the right-hand side of the oil pan. What you can do is you can route this up over top of the wire loom. So the wire loom is keeping this from falling. The head of the bolt is gonna sit in here. You basically route it up over top. As you start loosening, the lip that I just showed you in here is gonna prevent the bolt from falling through. The wire loom is gonna prevent this wrench from falling down, and it's also gonna keep the bolt itself, even when it's fully loosened, from falling out of the car. So what you wind up doing is you loosen it all the way up and then you walk away and you leave this in the car. And essentially it's holding that last bolt in there so you don't have to get it started again, right? You basically just go in, you may have to use a little screwdriver because it's hard to get your fingers when you go to reinstall it, but you flip this back to the on position and you just start ratcheting away and it's already lined up. So by doing that, I think it makes it really easy. And I know a lot of people complain about the oil pan step, but it's really not that bad if you take your time. I highly recommend using the combination of 1/4" drive and 3/8 drive. I use almost entirely 1/4" drive for that just because they're smaller and you can get it in those tight spots. Let's talk about one more thing. We'll talk about the stretch AC belt, which is a step that a lot of people have trouble with. And surprisingly, I had no issues with it, and I'll show you what I did. So if we come over here and look, it's gonna be kind of hard to see. Okay, so you are now looking at the AC belt where my light is shining. Now that is called a stretch AC. The reason why it's considered a stretch belt is because there's no tensioner for the AC. Basically, it just goes from the AC pulley over to the crank sprocket or the harmonic balancer pulley, whatever you want to call it. We won't call it the crank sprocket because we install a crank sprocket. Basically, in order to get the belt off, when you use the puller, it just stretches the belt and the belt comes off. When you go to install it though, it's a little bit more difficult. So what you wind up doing is you take the belt and you rotate it. So you're gonna put it around the AC, okay? So you're gonna put it around the AC that way. When you get over, you're not gonna have enough width or length to get onto the harmonic balancer. What you're gonna have to do is turn it and slide it behind. So in between the timing cover or the front cover, whatever you wanna call it, and the pulley, you're gonna slide it in there. Then with the car in neutral, you're gonna take I think it's an 18 millimeter deep well socket, put it on your crank bolt, get yourself a 1/2" drive or something that has some length to it so you have some leverage, and start turning that motor over clockwise. As you turn it over, it's gonna start to want to pull the belt up onto the pulley. You can either take your hand around the bottom and pull it towards the front of the car, towards the radiator. I've seen people use zip ties. You can look at some videos of this online. There's a guy who does one. It's about a couple minutes long, but basically it's not hard. So I didn't use any zip ties. I just put it around there, and as I started to turn it, I saw it starting to want to grab itself onto the pulley. Keep tugging until it does. Once you think you got it fully seated, rotate that crank a few more times. Sometimes you're like one rib off, it'll pop into place. So I hope that step helps you. Okay guys, I really hope you found this video helpful. You know, sometimes I make videos to try and get a lot of views, to get a lot of people to my channel, but sometimes I make videos just to really try to help people out, because I'm the type of person, you know, for better or worse, I want to do it myself. And I know there's a lot of people out there like that who want to do it themselves as well. So hopefully you found this video helpful. I monitor all the comments. So if you run into a step that you don't understand or is difficult, shoot me a question down in the comments and I will try and do my best to answer it for you. In the next video, we are gonna try and get this thing on the dyno to get some baseline dyno numbers and then give you an ETA on when we think the twin turbos are gonna get here. Obviously, we'll have a whole set of videos putting the turbos on, and then we'll be back to the dyno, back to racing, but that's all in future videos. So thank you, I appreciate you guys. Thanks for watching. Have a great rest of your Memorial Day weekend. Talk to you soon.